Hey everybody, it's your quick step for this week. I was kind of struggling for ideas this week. I kind of thought about talking about the remilitarization of Japan before I realized, man, there was not much I could talk about in that situation. It's scary, it's interesting, but until there's been further developments, I think that I might want to hold off my hot taking for another day. But I brought it to the Step Back Slack, and the Step Back Slack actually gave me some pretty good recommendations. So we're going to talk about the poisoning that happened of a Russian dissident in the UK. Luckily, it turns out that the dissident's daughter is going to be okay. That's good news. I like when people don't die. So I was interested in looking up what exactly happened, and this led me to one interesting thing that came up in many of the articles that I was researching, and that is they described the weapon used to poison as a quote-unquote nerve agent. And then I realized I had no idea what a nerve agent was. And so I tried to find out, what is a nerve agent? What kind of nerve agent is this, and how does it work? How was it made? All that kind of stuff. And I found a bunch of interesting stuff. So I thought it would be cool to talk about it. So it looks like the nerve agent that was used in this situation is something called Novichok. And it was a chemical weapon developed in the Soviet Union in the 70s and the 80s in order to get around some of the regulations and ways of detection that NATO had developed for detecting poison. They wanted to get rid of the controlled substances that the United Nations had put out. They wanted something that could go through protective gear that NATO was using, and they also wanted something that was relatively safe to transport. You know, a perfect thing for poisoning political dissidents in foreign countries. And one of the ways they do this is they make chemical weapons that are called quote-unquote binary, which, have you guys ever seen those ants that make like boiling acid by having two different chemicals and two different things and spraying them, and then when they mix together it creates this kind of caustic chemical? Well, that's basically what they wanted to do to make handling this stuff safer. So Novichok is actually two different things. Well, it's actually one thing and then another thing that activates it. And that's what a binary poison or a binary chemical weapon is supposed to be. It's supposed to be two things that are either less dangerous or not dangerous at all when separated, but when put together are deadly. The Soviets/Russians, this happened kind of in the middle of that, published the knowledge of this weapon very shortly before signing a chemical weapons treaty in 1992. Reason being that this poison was going to get around some of the regulations in it. What makes this thing different than most nerve agents is that it's not delivered via a gas or a liquid, but it's actually a very fine powder. And then the binary agent that they could use to activate it would be something similar and something that was not banned by the Chemical Weapons Treaty. And so I imagined, because it's called a nerve agent, that it does something to do with nerves, and I am correct in that. What it does is this poison basically interacts with your muscles, the nerves that interact with your muscles, and makes them all spasm and lock up. The victim then has an inability to breathe, and their heart stops because those things all operate with muscles. That just made me realize that a zoologist might get a little confused between zebra muscles and the muscles of a zebra. Another thing that at least helps with accidental exposure is that there is a drug that you can take to pretty much block the effects of the poison, so the Russian spy won't accidentally ingest it himself. But yeah, it's surprising how much genius of chemical engineering goes into creating weapons of death. It's kind of depressing in a way. Can you imagine if the person who invented Novichok or the team that invented Novichok was instead, I don't know, working on a disease or something? And so that's what I got for today. Sorry it's a bit short, but I just gave you guys like 3 15-minute plus videos 3 weeks in a row, so be a little kind. I am a content machine, but I'm not that good of a content machine. So I have a Patreon, as many of you people know, but I also know that some of you are wanting to help out with the channel a little bit, but either can't or aren't willing to, and this is fine, sign up for a monthly commitment. So I have something that you can do to drop maybe a couple bucks if you feel like I made a particularly good video that you liked, or just to do a one-off donation. Just go to paypal.me/stepbackhistory and leave whatever feels good to you. As Ollie says on PhilosophyTube, it's like handing around a hat at the end of a lecture. I'll see you guys on Thursday for a video about taxes, and like, share, and subscribe for more Step Back.